a very similar situation we've seen this time and time again. Bucks overhead, but that's not it. There's quite a lot more here. What do we got? Pressure.
Oh, he just took the throw. Throw it into the web.
And unfortunately, this is going to go into... Okay, he drops it. He takes the throw. Here we go. Redblade. He's got Vorpal.
Oh, 2v nothing.
No confirm. He's got
Back
chance here. Catches him with a low.
All right, he can slice swap here if he wants to. Drops it.
The drop from Redblade. He's still on it, though. He doesn't get the punch for the neutral drop.
Clearlamp manages to get Vorpal.
There's CS available. He sees it. Tries to bait a throw. Doesn't work out. He's still in there in the corner now. Clearlamp. Gets counter hit, but no confirm. With Vorpal. Oh,
he gets hit by 2-8.
That should be it.
That's it.
I think that's it. If Clearlamp doesn't drop this.
All right. Yeah.
Yep.
Fail
That's
off.
it, ladies and gentlemen.
Our Combo Breaker 2019 champion for Under Night Embers,
Clearlamp.
Hey guys, just before we go into the interview, I wanted to let you know that I got 10 interviews from Combo Breaker, which I'll be premiering at 12 PM Eastern Time every day on my Twitch channel, BornFree Twitch. Ideally, unless I'm running late. Keep an eye on my Twitter, BornFree Tweets. If you haven't seen this video, I'm doing a 6-week experiment with content, which could be the beginning of something special, or it just could be the end of my general production with FGC content. Either way, it's fine. I just don't like being in limbo. Much like I love the FGC, we all know how it is. If you want me to be that FGC guy who, for instance, interviews one person, you know, every weekday, for instance, on Skype or what have you, I will let you know at the end of the video how to lend me your support more directly. In the meantime, enjoy this video. If you like it, give it a like, because it helps with the trending. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's BornFree here. It is Sunday at Combo Breaker. UNIST is actually over. I'm here with Brett. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm not too bad, not too bad. Yeah. Like I said, it's Sunday. First interview of Sunday, so let's hope this one goes well. Yeah. Sunday's always a day of rest, right?
Well, yeah, I'm resting, you know, just taking it easy. I think a lot of us, if you're not in a top 8 or something, just a day to chill, have some fun, get some last games in. That's the main thing, I think, for a lot of people.
All the super salty ones just fly home.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. Some of their teams, they're like, get me out of here. So they're gone. I saw some people leaving this morning.
Yeah.
Okay, so Brett, I know the UNIST community will know Brett very well, but you know there's a lot of people who are very interested in UNIST now, and I thought this would be an appropriate interview to do. Brett is considered one of the faces, or biggest faces of the community in the US. I think that's a good way of putting it.
Sure.
You do a lot of commentary. You were commentating the top 8 yesterday, and so I wanted to talk a lot about the UNIST, I guess, community and the players, and try and get a little bit of a primer before potentially CEO or Evo, potentially, you know, definitely Evo. So I wanted to, and then we'll talk a little bit about you.
Sure.
First question, straight off the bat, who's the best UNIST player in the world?
That's a really hard question for a lot of reasons. The main one, obviously, being that if we're going by data, there's not a lot of big Japanese tournaments. Japanese scene is obviously the strongest. They've had the game for longer. Their environment is really good. So compared to, you know, US or Europe, obviously the strongest players are going to be in Japan. But who's number one within Japan is pretty tough to say, especially in this version. By arcade ranking, it's going to be Ohito. He's a Seth player. A lot of people consider him like the best player. He won KSB last year, which is the biggest console Japanese tournament. But he did not win any of the other ones, and KSB this year just happened, actually, a month ago. So a completely different player. Kyo Gordo, player from Osaka, actually won. So, yeah, answering the question is really hard. I think a lot of people just kind of have favorites. If we're going by ranking, though, like just number of wins kind of arcade, Ohito definitely beats up the most people there in Tokyo. He has the most wins, technically, at their locals, too. So by numbers, it's Ohito. But the East Coast and West Coast in Japan are actually pretty separate. They basically only interact in a large scale at that KSB tournament. Yeah. So, and at KSB this year, a lot more Osaka players placed higher than Tokyo players. So a lot of people could say that maybe the Osaka players are better, so Okito might be the best in East Japan, but who knows as far as West Japan goes. There's a lot of strong players all across the board, so that's one of the things I think we're most excited to see at EVO is just, obviously the American players interacting and all that stuff too, but also even the Japanese players, a lot of them coming over from different areas of Japan, and, it's EVO, it's a bracket. We have no idea what's going to happen there, so pretty excited to see that.
So, I mean, the thing about UNIST is like it's a game which is under what's the word? There's not a lot. There's not a lot. It's under the radar, but there's not a lot of money behind it. So the reason I asked that question was because, of course, it's an extremely difficult question to answer if players aren't being sponsored and not flying out and they're not meeting each other.
Right. It is definitely, I still kind of think of it as somewhat of a niche game, even though numbers-wise, it's definitely not at this point.
Not at this
Combo Breaker numbers higher than Guilty Gear, and we definitely wouldn't consider Guilty Gear like a niche game anymore either. So that's kind of like my measuring stick. Guilty Gear, like if your game is like at Guilty Gear level, you're no longer really considered like tiny.
Okay.
But yeah, the community is still pretty tight knit, and full of kind of like its own interesting idiosyncrasies and very kind of far off from a lot of the other fighting game scenes. I think a lot of days we look at the numbers as far as entrants go, right? Like a lot of people come from all kinds of different games, just like trying the game, entering casually or a side game. But if you look at like a lot of the people who play just Uni, like super hardcore into Uni, you don't see that many players who do that who are like coming from other games. Like everyone who really is into Uni, it seems like they're just all in on Uni. So that definitely creates a pretty interesting kind of scope as far as how the game goes. But yeah, it is still definitely, it's getting a lot of attention now because of EVO. But before EVO, even though there were a lot of numbers, still it's kind of that game where people kind of, you hear about it. You see the memes, right? Or word of mouth. Yeah, play UNIST. Play UNIST.
Yeah.
But the most people are just like, I don't know what that is. I just hear that, or like you might see some characters, but that's like it.
I pick up games a lot of the time, not to compete in them because there's so many, right? But I pick them up just because I want to see elements of the game that are interesting. So, for instance, UNIST, the big pull for me was like, hey, UNIST has the greatest training, the training section training mode that any game has or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And so I tried it out or whatever, and I actually felt that it goes very in depth, but I also felt like it's a bit like slogging through it is a bit like reading the Bible or something. It's like it's quite a lot of. It's quite a slog, right? But it also goes very in depth if you're willing to do it.
It's one of those things where if you don't know something, you can be like, well, that was in training mode. Why didn't you know about that kind of thing? But then it's like, as a new player actually going into it, it's just pretty heavy, but that's just kind of part of the game. It is a pretty dense game. So it's actually exciting that a lot of people are picking it up because it is kind of intimidating. There's definitely been a mixed bag of, kind of how to advertise it to players. And I think for a while, a lot of people were saying, UNIST is a very simple game. Combos are easy, blah, 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 not too many crazy X, Y, and Z. But that's like kind of a lie now. No, but that was definitely a thing. People were definitely saying that, I'm sure I've said that at some point. But nowadays, I definitely don't say that. I'm like, Uni is a hard game. No denying that. But I think that's maybe part of the reason why this kind of boom has just been this kind of like slow trucking ascent is because people need the time, to, even when they're hooked into it, you need time to really sink your teeth in the game, engross yourself with its, subtleties. And then you're like, okay, I got a handle on the game. Now I can like play people, try and have fun, try and learn, a lot of, there's the barrier is definitely there.
There's a lot of layers to it, and a lot of good players that I know play it, like on the side or whatever, and they're like, this game is really dope, and it's because of the depth. And I started playing as Eltonum, and soon found out I didn't know. I just picked it because she had a gun, right?
That's smart. You're smart. Guns are generally they're a pretty good weapon. I recommend them.
It was more the meme, because like basically in Street Fighter there was always this meme like give
them a gun,
give Chun a gun or give somebody a gun, right? And so like I was messing around with these characters, and I just pressed, quarter circle forward, and this girl pulls out this gun, and I'm like, this is my character.
Yeah.
Right?
No, uni characters are smart. You got like girl with full screen whip. She knows what she's doing. And Elnum's got a gun, and then the next. She used to only have like kind of like one shot, in the down shot, and then she learned the next version she got a full screen shot, and she has like a super shot.
She has like a beam.
Yep. So she's a smart girl.
Yeah, although I heard she's very technical, and I've had my friend, he was like, hey, here's a bread and butter, and I was like, playing it for weeks trying to nail this combo, and I'm like, this is a bread and butter? Are you crazy? So it definitely has that challenge element to it, which I think, to be honest, now in fighting games, we've sort of gone through this, hey, we're making these games easier, and I think people are actually I personally think people are actually crying out for more of a challenge. So I think UNIST sort of satisfies that for a lot of people.
Yeah, there's definitely been that kind of trend. I feel you on that. Uni, I think the reason why maybe some people were talking about how it's not that hard is because there's a big input buffer in the game. So like there's not really very many hard links, but there's just a lot of technicalities to the combos, and they're kind of long, and there's a lot of like hit confirming properly or routing. So like if you only needed one combo, maybe it wouldn't be that bad, but a lot of time you kind of need to know where you're going with the combo, and what kind of starter you have. That's a really big thing in Uni, is like starters
and meter management.
Meter management, resource. I mean, there's just a lot of factors at play. So it's kind of less like knowing the combo in a vacuum is not that bad, but then like trying to with certain characters, really trying to get your clean conversions in matches, especially in scramble situations, it's pretty tough.
Yeah. So when it was announced, was that a complete surprise to you? Or, did you know? Did someone tell you, like, secretly behind the scenes, say, hey, I think UNIST is happening this year? Or were you just like, what the hell is going on? Like, when it was announced for EVO, I mean, just to clarify.
Yeah. I did not know. I think it would have been pretty obvious if I knew, because I wouldn't be able to contain myself. I definitely would have told people if I knew. That's like my confession. There's no way I could keep that a secret. Blew me away, blew a lot of us away. I would, garner to say blew, almost everyone away.
How did you hear about it? Were you watching, or did you hear about it?
So the joke is, it got announced right after Anime Ascension. Yeah. So at Anime Ascension, there were like a lot of people talking about maybe Uni will, come out, because there's actually like a long history regarding Uni and Evo, which is that a few years prior, back in the first console version, Uni-Ol, there was a year basically where it seemed like it was really looking good for Uni because it was getting pretty popular. It was like the first year, and there was kind of an open spot. It ended up being the second year that Persona got picked. So there were like a lot of salt, because if you looked at the numbers, like Persona wasn't actually doing well that year, and it was kind of like the energy wasn't really there, the momentum for Persona. And it that's Ultimax, by the way. I'm not talking about Arena, but yeah, Ultimax the second year was there, and Uni didn't get in. A lot of people were like feeling Uni, so then ever since then people were like kind of bummed out about it. Like, man, that was our time, right? And even me, I definitely also had said like that was the year. I think if Uni had gotten picked that year, it would have been amazing. So it didn't. So ever since then, there's kind of just been kind of an awkwardness around like Evo selection, where it's like, well, it's not going to happen. Like, last year wasn't going to happen because
so it's never gonna
ST
happen,
wasn't.
but...
Yeah, like the timing wasn't there, right? Yeah. But then last year, the numbers, like last year basically was like the full tournament circuit for ST, the new version basically. Well, it's not really that new anymore, but came out a little over a year ago. I'm really bad at the numbers, but came out and numbers just kind of soared again. There was definitely like a dip, right? Which happens with these kind of games where basically you're stuck in an old version, Japan comes out with a new version, but there's no console port. And so that kind of time lag is definitely a momentum killer. Just you're done. So people still stuck with the game, and everyone kind of did their best to support, but it's natural. You're definitely not going to get like that many new players to be interested in the game where you're like, yo, should I pick up this game? And half the players are like, well, it's not actually the newest version, and we're kind of waiting for the new version. And a lot of people are like, okay, I'll just wait, kind of thing, right? It's natural. So SD comes out, UNIST, and then all the tournament numbers just kind of blow up. There was a sequence where the entrance just kind of beat each prior record over and over again. It was like Combo Breaker last year into the Evo side tournament into CEO Otaku last year was just like kind of ridiculous. From like I think it was like high 100s to low 200s to mid 200s to high 200s. And then now we're back here at like 420 something, 425, which is ridiculous. So I totally actually lost track. what were we talking
it's fine.
about?
It's fine. I actually wanted to ask you another question,
Okay,
which is like I remember picking up UNIST like it was a while ago, right?
Yeah.
But I remember picking it up because there was something going on social media, which was kind of like, and you were talking about saying like people were talking about saying it's simple. People were talking about saying it's the Street Fighter of anime games.
Yeah.
Well, I heard that the Street Fighter of anime
Mm-hmm,
games. This, that, the other, right? Like, so I remember picking it up and like there was some stuff UX. I actually, one of my pet peeves. Everyone knows this. One of my pet peeves with like I'm a Street Fighter fanboy, but one of my pet peeves with the current game is like the actual UX, like the loading screens and like getting in and out things and like how it is to use that. And I was playing UNIST and I was in training mode and I was switching between characters in like less than like 2 seconds. Like I was like timing it. I was like, watch this, 3 seconds. Like I'll change the character. But I was just testing a few things and that was it for me. And then until like Evo announced it, and then I've started to get more into like I've been training a little bit with Eltonum, but I still feel like I'm not ready to do anything with her because she's like she's I don't know. It's the combo system is interesting to me. It's not. I think it's going to take me a little while to get used to, but there was the first thing I wanted to ask you were you guys trying to push UNIST at that time, or was
the Evo announcement?
Before the Evo announcement, or like was there a concerted it's like a campaign to do it, or was the game just standing up for itself? Like,
so I definitely think it's the latter. I think that's one of the things that's been really nice about Uni is that it feels to me like it really just stands by itself. Like the players. I mean, there's a lot of shilling because there's shilling in every game, right? Yeah. But it's not like as a community we're like, hey guys, let's get this push. We're gonna like hit these numbers, and let's really try and get this game like really hot. I mean, obviously, anyone who likes the game they play has the natural drive to want to get other people interested in the game. That's pretty natural. So yeah, there's that like low-key natural level of trying to get people included, but there was definitely no concerted effort to like no campaign to be like let's blow this up. But there's again like you had kind of touched on, there's just like things like memes and just sayings that just kind of pop up again. Like you said, play UNIST is not really a community-driven effort. It's just like a catchphrase that became a meme in and of its own, and then people just kind of started spouting it. I actually even tweeted at when that started happening that I kind of didn't like it because it didn't really necessarily even encapsulate what's good about the game, and it kind of gave it this kind of I feel that some people were definitely like a little salty about seeing that kind of thing, because if you're not a Uni player and you just see everyone being like, just play this game, it's like the best, obviously you're gonna feel a little defensive, right? So but it just caught on, that kind of thing. There's some things like held his bathwater, use his bathwater, that kind of stuff. Eating pizza. There's just, I could go on, and even I'm not entirely an expert on this field, but all of that kind of combines into this kind of subculture, I guess that's how I would really call it, that is pretty unique to Uni, and it kind of leads to this scene that has really allowed the depth and the interest of the game to come out in the forefront. And I just feel like everyone who likes the game and supports it really is just doing it because they just really like the game. But definitely, if you look at the people who enter, I feel like maybe like last year or the end of 2017, when there was like started to get a lot more numbers, I'd like look at the entry list, right? And I would see, like 100 plus people, 150 people, I think, at like the first really big one. I was like, okay, I look at this entrance list, I look at the bracket, and I only know like 30 of these people. I'm like, I don't even know who all these people are.
New people,
it's really been actually like the mid-level players and the people who dabble, and the obviously like high level players as well. But it's definitely been this thing where a lot of people just try the game for some reason, I feel like, and then they stick with it, they like it, and they start coming out and enter tournaments, and they have fun doing it. And you know, they might not necessarily all be like hard in on Uni, but for whatever reason they're coming out and they're supporting, and that's actually really been, in my opinion, the groundwork of that numbers boost. It's really like those mid-level players coming out, supporting, learning a lot, getting stronger, getting other people into the game. Very natural, you know, not like a top level driven thing. Like I feel like there are even tournaments where maybe not that many notable players show up, but you still see like pretty bulky numbers, you know. It's very different than most anime games, where I feel like most anime games, when they're like, let's say sub 100, you know, like 50 players, so like when you look at that kind of bracket, usually it's like, you know, every single person there basically, or like you're like, okay, there's like, you know, like 10 casual people and 40 people that you're like, these people play the game kind of thing. And then like it's really different for Uni now with the numbers. I feel like that's kind of how it's going to be for any game that gets really big, but the concentration of like the hardcore players definitely feels like less distributed than some of the other like more niche or anime games. So I think that's been really interesting. I think that is definitely showing that there's a different approach to how people are kind of getting into the game compared to some of the other anime games. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, what I did want to ask you about is this. I don't know if it's a leak or not. I've been a bit confused by it, to be honest, because I've seen various things. This new version, which is like CL-R,
yeah.
And I saw like a trailer, which looked like just a UNIST trailer with a new like end title, but I couldn't tell if it was fan made or real. And I also read that it was like leaked. I don't know where did it start?
I don't actually know exactly either, because it happened while I was in Japan. So I just saw it on Twitter, but it is an official, like, it's a thing, it's real. There's a new version coming out. It was announced. I don't remember where it was actually announced though, but it might have just been French Bread posting it. But we know the title, but we don't actually know how it's pronounced. So your guess is as good as mine.
Has anybody tried to guess like what those letters mean?
So the meme, I like Sonaru, who's a famous like a Japanese player. He said it's Clearlamp. I like that one a lot. Some people are like,
sorry, just for people who don't know, Clearlamp is the guy who won last night, actually in the top 8 at Combo Breaker.
Yeah. So I thought that one's pretty funny. Some people said Uniqlo, which is also pretty funny. I think a lot of us are guessing it's Uniclear, but it's just really weird because the naming convention to begin with is very odd. Like Under Night In-Birth makes sense within like the lore of the game, and then EXE late is weird, and then latest makes some sense because it was the version after late. So, but there's no later, so we're like, okay, what's after latest? And it's CLR, so we can't even guess.
Well, I was wondering if the L stands for late, and so there's a word that goes before late or latest. So current latest, I don't know, like
yeah, I don't know. Maybe it like, if they're gonna meme with like EXE stuff, maybe it's like command list recording or something, just something really weird. I know it's bizarre. I just know it's gonna be completely out there. So I have no idea. I'm ready to be surprised by what. Because it's got to be something like Japanese players can say. So it's going to be some weird English. Like, yeah, I have no idea. But French Bread, the developers definitely admit to just kind of like picking random stuff that sounds cool, like English word. Like if you look at the color palettes in Uni, I don't know if you've seen, but they all have like names and they're all in English and they're like just kind of random. So sometimes like if it's like a fruit flavor, it looks basically like they picked up English thesaurus and they just kind of picked like random words in it. You know, you got like Emperor of Walnut, Successful Black, Righteous Daddy. It's like really random in a good way. But yeah, there's definitely some precedence for them just kind of going with what they admit to sound cool to Japanese players. So I am excited to see what the actual new version is going to be called.
Did they put a date on it or no?
We don't know. I'm hoping that it's going to be announced at EVO. Like we're going to see a new trailer. There's also a thing about a new character that was basically like a joke. Like it was like a fan made. Someone basically posted if I recall, a fan made drawing of a character that didn't get into the game, but they were like kind of joking about a character at some point in the past, and so that also got posted. So people were like getting confused, like, oh, is this a new character? But it's not. It's just kind of like a weird leak. But yeah, so I'm assuming we're gonna get new characters. A lot of people were excited for it. Where it's gonna go is gonna be pretty interesting though, as far as new versions go, because the EL was a fairly imbalanced game, if I'm going to be pretty honest. Like, like top characters looking like really strong, and then like the weak characters being like, man, these characters it's quite the struggle. So UNIST is a lot better tuned. The weaker characters can definitely fight a lot better. So the matchups in general are like a lot more well-rounded. So they did a really good job from EL to ST. They shifted a lot of things though, like got a lot more offensive, added new options, added a ton more characters. I think it's like total of 4 if we go from EL to ST. So a bunch of new characters. So it's like, where do you go from here? Are they going to retune? Are they going to just kind of do the basic like shift the top down, move the bottom up? Are they going to add new mechanics? Because like what happened with the first ST was they added some new mechanics, and some characters like were really good at abusing those mechanics, and they became really strong. And the new characters are kind of like a dice roll too. Like Phonon was a new character, and she's really good. And then the other new characters definitely feel like they were a little bit incomplete or missing a little bit. So yeah, pretty interested to see how Uniclear or CLR is going to be. Yeah, it's they're the strong players and the strong characters in this version. Definitely a lot of people want to see them tuned a bit, because a lot of them are just slightly overtuned. So I think a lot of people think that it can be easily kind of adjusted.
Balance.
Yeah. So but it's hard, I mean, everyone thinks they're an expert at balance, So
Well, people don't always want balance. That's
Yeah,
that's the other thing.
yeah.
Like, broken characters are kind of fun. Like
definitely, I'm all for maximum fun. That's.
So let me ask you about, since we talked about Clearlamp. So top 8 was last night. Clearlamp he's Japanese, right?
Yeah.
But does he live here?
He does not. So he actually has been traveling. Okay. So for those people who don't know, Clearlamp is a Osaka, like West Japan player, and he's flown over now for I believe 3 tournaments. Sea Otaku last year, which is considered kind of like the biggest anime major, and then Climax of Night, which is the new tournament series that Shinobi is running. That's kind of the very like kind of grassroots French bread centric tournaments, only like French bread games. He went to that as well, and then he came to Combo Breaker. So for Sea Otaku, I think he just came to support, and then Climax of Night, he actually came through a fundraiser, if I recall, run by Majin Obama. Okay. Yeah, he ran like a Teespring to fly over Sonaru and Clearlamp, and they got first and second. And then, and then for Combo Breaker, he wasn't gonna come, but after late entry, after like normal reg closed, I believe. And Rick posted the numbers, and he posted 424 players for Under Night Ember, that Combo Breaker. He literally just slammed down the reserve and bought a ticket immediately and paid the late entry fee of like $120. Wow. So he just literally was like, yo, biggest tournament ever, I'm going, let's go. And he just flew over.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and he won it. I mean, he's a very strong player. So he is actually a very active organizer as well. So he's one of the kind of the community figureheads in West Japan. Okay. And he's obviously a really strong player. There are other players at his level though, but he is definitely at the top class. If we talk about West Japan players, his name will absolutely come up. Yeah.
But not unbeatable, because he was definitely put into losers. Mm-hmm. But he did come back and reset the bracket, which is a strong player. And that sort of leads me into my next question, which is the American community, because that's the region that we're in currently. I'd love to talk about every region in the world, but that would be the region that I think you're the biggest expert on.
Sure.
Who are the top players at the moment, names that people can look at, and as we go towards Evo, potentially look up on YouTube, or if they're learning characters, etc.?
So the biggest two names that will always come up first are Redblade and Squish. So Redblade being the guy who got second, like you said, he put Clearlamp into losers, and he actually has a record of doing that. He did that at Climax of Night 2. He 2-0'd Clearlamp in winners and then lost to him in losers.
Ooh.
Yeah, so...
let's hope this doesn't turn into a curse.
Yeah, so, and a very similar thing happened this year. He got 3-1 in winners. He 3-1 Clearlamp in winners, and then got 3-0 reset bracketed into another... 3-1, I believe, in post reset. So he has a pattern of that, which is really unfortunate. But he's absolutely a super strong player, and a lot of people have eyes on him to try and take out Japanese players at Evo. Him and Squish, of course, too. Very well known Katsuki player. He's got a lot of flash as well. He's got some great meme combos and highlight clips and stuff like that. People always posting awesome parry clips of him on Twitter. So he's also pretty well known and very strong player from Arizona. So West Coast player. After that, it's very hard to say. The overall landscape of strength in America has been actually shifting very very much over the last year, I would say. If you look at a year ago, I feel like it'd be pretty easy to just name off 8 players who've been playing since the first console version and have kind of owned their knowledge and experience and skill. But now we're seeing a lot of players who started in ST and have taken the time of a half a year to a year to kind of really get the experience they need and really take their strong base skills to get to the top level now. So you have a lot of players who their names did not really come up, let's say a year ago, now placing pretty highly. And this tournament, Combo Breaker as well, had a lot of what people consider upsets. And if you look at the top 8, there's a lot of players who I think we would expect to see there missing from that top 8. The one who I think definitely made it there that was projected to be there is Trill. So Trill is a Chaos player from Arkansas, who's definitely, in my opinion, a really strong lab monster as well. He just knows a lot about the game, and he's also a player that I think is one of the strongest in the US. He was very close to beating Clearlamp in winners actually too. So he took the first game, so it was really close. It was actually a really good game. So he's also another name, but there's just a lot of people. If you look at the top 8 as well, Royal Heart and Foxev, also really amazing performances at this top 8, really putting themselves out there. So those players also deserve to be mentioned. Anyone who made top 8 in this tournament, even top 16 actually, with this many players, honestly, if you look at almost anyone in the top 16's run, their run is insane. So yeah, but I mean, obviously I'm from the West Coast, so I know more about West Coast players, but I'm always gonna say people like Tari is really strong, but he didn't get to enter this tournament. But you also have strong Canadian players. Slam actually also is from Canada and took out a lot of people. Really strong performance this year as well. But there's just so many players to name. School Bus also amazing Wagner player who had a breakout performance, I feel. This was his first really strong showing. I think he was really able to show his stuff, and he even switched back to his kind of old main. He plays both characters, but he hadn't really been playing Carmine for a while. Switched to Carmine as a pick for some matchups and did really well with it. So really showing that he has that kind of knowledge to be able to apply in tournament settings. So yeah, honestly, I could just go on and on. But.
No, I know. So we won't do that because we don't want to go on forever. Obviously, it's just exciting to know some of the names going into Evo. I think those guys are probably going to be very, very excited to play. These top players from Japan who potentially they may not have played before.
Yeah,
and may have just seen on video, whatever. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of prep to beat the Japanese, or the JPs as Hookgan God calls it. He was always in Dragon Ball, he's we've got to beat the JPs.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be really, I think it's gonna be really, really hype at Evo when that happens.
It's gonna be super hype because Uni is kind of a fresh game. There's not a lot of history, especially in the US, right? The first console version came out in like 2015 or so, 14, something like that. So if you look at a lot of the other games with like a long history with players, you see a lot of interactions between the Japanese and the Americans over time. But this game, there's really none of that. Like a bunch of the US players and I went over to Japan for KSB earlier this year, and I had a blast just watching a lot of these Americans and Japanese interact for the first time. It's really kind of almost a historic thing. So Uni at EVO is going to be absolutely historic because there's just going to be like an army of Japanese players coming over. Very much kind of like Guilty Gear, the first EVO year, where you're just going to see all these players that you've only seen like in videos and stuff. And they're going to be integrating with all kinds of players in America. So I feel like there's a lot of takeaway that you're able to get, obviously, when you play at that level. And just watching the players who did go to Japan last month kind of level up was really interesting. So I'm excited to see, strong players from all over America and, of course, Europe. There's a lot of strong European players, too, at EVO, competing and just interacting and seeing that mix. Because, there's a lot of subtleties and meta to the game. And everyone's kind of playing on a different meta. So there's a lot about like adjustment and seeing like, okay, these guys play like this. And even within Japan, the East Coast versus West Coast plays very differently. So it's for many reasons, it's going to be a lot of like first times for us at EVO.
It's going to be exciting as hell. So last night there was a little bit of memeing going on. There were some signs, like I didn't totally get it. But the UNIST community seemed to be out in force. There was a lot of, it's very loud and a lot of people cheering, and they were holding up this sign, which it looked like an emote, but I'm not sure. Do you want to tell me about that?
Yeah, it's a character from the game, Mika, who's the little girl with the giant like armored arms. Yeah. She's like the little grappler. Yes. So Mika is kind of like I don't even know how to describe what she is for the game. She's kind of like the mascot, I guess. Yeah, she's really the mascot character, where she makes the XD face, right? So right, so XD is a big thing. She makes XD faces all the time. So people were holding up these big cardboard cutouts of Mika doing the XD face. And she's a lot of people just find her very endearing, and we have a lot of like Mika emotes in the Uni Discord. So she's definitely kind of like the flagship silly character. You've probably seen the Mika bonk too, which is that like emoji where she's on the bongo doing this, and there's an XD on the bongo. There's that little gif is really, really common. So it was pretty great. I was excited to see a lot of that support.
It was. Now, as the community grows, like, and people get into it, like you mentioned the Discord, is that one of the best places? Is there a subreddit? Is there, where are places that people can go as they become interested and they want to get better or they want to become part of the community?
The easiest way is definitely the Uni Discord. I feel like Under Night as a community is kind of like one of the first communities really just born on Discord, because it's like people weren't playing Uni when you're using IRC or using forums, really, right? So Uni really, the community started on Discord, and it's definitely the hottest place to get everything you need. There are channels for each character, usually with like pinned resources and a plethora of people there to help you learn the game. It's a good place to ask questions. There's a channel for netplay if you want netplay people on PS4 or Steam, as well as general chats. And then there's also channels for each event. So we have like a combo breaker channel, and you can talk in the combo breaker channel to kind of find sets, see where people are and stuff like that. So it's really well put together. We have a group of admins and staff and mods who help make that run very smoothly. So highly recommend the Uni Discord. That's definitely the place.
Is it just called UNIST or?
I don't actually know the easiest way to find it, but I am almost positive.
Subreddit? Because normally there's a link from the subreddit.
I don't actually know if anyone uses the subreddit.
You know what? We'll figure it out. I'll put the link down below for people.
It's not hard to find. You can definitely ask around and pretty quickly get the Uni Discord invite link. Actually, I think Suika, when the owner of the Discord, actually like printed out these really cool stickers, passing them out at Otaku last year that had like cute little faces with the Uni Discord link. So that was pretty cute.
Okay. Now, I wanted to ask you, just got a few more questions, and then I got to wrap up because got a few more interviews to do today.
You're a busy guy.
I know, right? Tournaments are the best and worst place to do interviews. And Sunday is always that day where everyone's knocked out and they're like, oh, yeah, I'll do an interview. So I wanted to ask you, is there like a character like Ryu or like the fundamentals character in UNIST, or is it like for a beginner coming in, like what would you recommend in regards to characters that might teach you a lot about the game?
So the Ryu of the game is Hyde because he's the main character, and he's also kind of a shodo. He's got very traditional tools, I feel, for like if you play other fighting games. He's got a Fireball, he's got a DP, and he's got a Rekka.
Isn't he a guest character?
He is not a guest character. No, he's from Uni. Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking of the Akuma guy.
Oh, you're talking about Enkidu, like the guy with no shirt.
Yeah.
He's a new character. He's not a guest character though. He's just a new character.
Okay.
So yeah, I would say that Hyde is the Ryu in the sense that he's like the main character and he's pretty fundamentals based. But there's a lot of other characters that kind of let you play basic Uni and get comfortable with it. For example, Akatsuki is another one where his tools are...
That was the one I was thinking of.
Okay,
He's the guest character because people were talking to me and they were like, he's like he's got like a raging demon, like because I like Akuma, right? So they're like, this guy's Akuma, like you should play this guy. But yeah, as a guest character, I was like, I don't know if that works.
Yeah, Akatsuki, he's from Akatsuki Blitzcamp, and he's the main character in that game. I believe. And he's also a pretty good character to start with because he's got a Fireball, he's got a Tatsu, and he's got a DP.
And these things are useful in UNIST?
Yeah. So like his DP is a 2-2 input too, so it's pretty easy to use. Okay. It's a good anti-air. So a lot of Street Fighter players definitely gravitate towards Akatsuki. Okay. And they seem to be enjoying it. So for people who are like coming from Street Fighter, that seems to be the obvious pick. But there's honestly a lot of characters that are fun. There's a lot of people recommend Wagner as well for starting out. Because her tools are like pretty straightforward, and she has a lot of ways to kind of like force her way in and open people up at a kind of like a basic level.
Yeah.
So yeah, that character
a bit of a meme as well, right?
Yes, people like. In America, people think Wagner is very strong, primarily because she has like really good normals and has a very high bully factor, if I'm going to be honest. So the kind of the meme is that you don't really need to defend that often with Wagner because you just take your turn all the time. It's obviously just a meme. There's obviously a lot of factors more than just at the surface level for that character, but it is true that especially if you're learning, it's kind of a lot easier because her tools are pretty easy to use. Yeah, like you have a move that can put you plus, and that's the main meme, is that she has a move that is +9 on block, and so if you don't know what you're doing, you can kind of just like do stuff into that move and just keep your turn, because in Under Night it's a game where things are usually minus, and it's pretty rare to find plus frames without some kind of drawback. In that scope of things, having a move that is just very easily keeping your turn is very, very helpful if you're not used to Under Night. It's the main thing, actually, is less than anything else is kind of getting used to the way Under Night's played, because defense is much more rewarding than other games. So, and it's not mix-ups are kind of a lot harder to use. You don't just have like a really fast overhead that you can just throw out into 1 billion damage. Like no real cancelable standing overhead for most characters. Elnam has one, for example. So Elnam's actually a pretty fun character to start with too. She's, like you said, pretty technical and kind of hard to grasp, but yeah, she has a lot of nice tools for doing offense. I feel like applying offense in this game is a lot harder, especially when you're fighting strong players. And like when you start out, you're just like, dude, I can't open this guy up. Because there's just a lot of subtleties to like basically how to tech throws and how to defend yourself. So when you're new, you don't have an easy answer for like, how do I hit this guy, right? Because neutral is actually pretty crazy too, right? Like your character like Akatsuki fighting against a character like Phonon and Merkava, where they just have these really long normals. If you're trying to like play it like Street Fighter, you're gonna be like, there's no answer. This guy's normals go across the screen. I can't do anything, right? So it's kind of a game where that situation happens a lot. You have to be patient and just kind of keep moving forward, get closer and closer and closer, and shield to get grid, win warp, all that kind of subtle stuff, right?
Right.
So it's not like as easy at the surface level to kind of approach not just like, well, control space, anti-air them if they jump. It's very hard to apply that in a game where people have like all kinds of stuff, you know. Even in other anime games, it's usually a little simpler to just like, oh, well, you have an air dash, but if I read it, I can anti-air you and still kind of play that basic ground game versus look for air options kind of play. But in Uni, it's a lot more difficult because there's just so much asymmetry going on.
Got it. And if you, one last question, I guess, for beginners is like, what would you have them focus on? Like, because, you know, there's a lot of fundamentals. One of the pieces of advice I was given was with training room, don't do the whole thing. Like, just do a bit of it and then go have some fun.
I would say that, first of all, I have to mention the two really important documents that are online that are really helpful. One is this translated Evernote by Clearlamp, actually. And he wrote this guide called How to Become Stronger at Uni. And that's been translated. And that has a lot of good resources about just basic concepts and how to apply them, how to win with them, basically. Like, okay, how to defend, like, how do I deal with throws? How do I deal with someone who knows how to deal with throws? Those kind of things. He goes through all those options. They're in training mode as well. But that document is still really good for actually putting it in the context of like how to play an actual match. Yeah. So there's that, and there's also the grid primer written by Infinity, who's also one of the strongest players, definitely the strongest hide in America on the East Coast. And he has a Google Doc, I believe, called the grid primer, if I recall, and that's just got a lot of things about how to use grid, control Vorpal, which is a big part of the strategy of the game. So those two documents are really important. You basically, I personally think they're just basically kind of mandatory. Like, just read them. It will help you. But my biggest piece of advice is that you got all this information, you got all these docs I'm talking about, but it's actually just important to, be able to absorb them properly. So I think it's actually more important to stay motivated and have like fun and like kind of take things bit by bit. It takes a while, right? So like, don't obsess about things like in training mode too much. I feel like it's actually important to just like fight people and kind of get something from those matches. The game is very player versus player, so most of the game is about like, okay, this guy's doing this, how do I deal with that? Like, he's using these options, so what do I need to do to handle these options? Or he's not using this option, how do I abuse that? Right? So you're never going to learn that even if you read everything, unless you practice the mental game. So just go in matches, like find a friend is the best place. Like find somebody who's at the same level or close, and have a goal, basically, right? Like, this time, okay, I want to learn how to tech throws better. I'm going to practice this option select I practiced a lot, right? And then just play matches and kind of focus on that, or focus on one or two things. Have a goal you want to do. Okay, I want to open this guy up using this string. I want to get better at using this string because I know it's good, right? And then you just go in there, play some matches, and do that. I think it's really hard in the beginning when everyone's just telling you everything, like, oh, you pay attention to Vorpal, make sure you shield this, that. When you block this, do that. There's so many things that it's just unrealistic to be able to just absorb all of it at the same time. It's not happening. It's not happening. Even if you are an experienced fighting game player, that's the big thing too. Like, a lot of people go into it, you're like, oh, I'm hella good at all these other games, but there's just so much. And like, it's like, yeah, I know you're good, but like, there's just so much to learn. Like, you might be a master philosopher, but you're going into like a science class for the first time. It's just, it's not realistic to assume you're going to be able to just crunch it all down in an instant. So it takes time. So it's just easier to bit by bit absorb things, because all of that kind of stuff has to eventually, wind down into the subconscious so you can think about larger aspects of the game, right? So it's just building blocks. So pick one block at a time, two at a time, and just kind of build up and up and up.
Got it. All right, well, it's been a pleasure. Maybe next time we'll get to talk about you.
But
that was really useful as a primer for UNIST. It's certainly very useful for me. Hopefully it's useful for you guys. Where can people follow you?
You can follow me on Twitter at Hellabret. I also have a stream, twitch.tv/TheBret, that you can check out as well.
Cool. So we are going to wrap this up. I'm going to say goodbye to you guys. So see you soon. Hey guys, little outro from me. If you enjoyed the interview or any content that I do, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it at all. YouTube is abysmal right now, particularly in the FGC, for making any type of ad revenue. So I do actually need direct support from you guys, direct financial support. Again, no sugarcoating, guys. This is it. Last chance saloon for me. So you can support me via Patreon in the link below, or you can come to my stream. You can support me via Twitch subs or donations. Again, links below. I stream pretty regularly. Big thank you to my patrons that are on screen right now. The trend is going up. More and more people are joining. I will verbally shout out Domingo, Steven Sense, Terrence Harris, and Alan Kabata for being my top 4 patrons. But all of you are making a difference. You have no idea. And like I said, the trend is only going up. So that's really looking good at the moment. Twitch subs and donations. You guys get shout outs on stream, of course. Now, this is all part of a 6-week experiment. If you haven't already watched the video will be at the end of this video. You can click on it. Interviews, streaming, and comedy skits are what I do, along with other stuff. But let me know in your comments what you are supporting. That's really important to me to understand what it is that you are supporting. And maybe it's all 3, I don't know. Patreon's a bit of a mess right now. I will sort it out, and I may make some tiers and allow people to have more influence on my work, or at least talk to me about it, stuff like that, depending on what tier you're in. In the meantime, come to the Discord. There's a whole section where you can give me suggestions, thoughts, feedback. You know, who do you want to see interviewed, stuff like that. This may or may not be the end of my FGC content creation. Either way, it's fine. I just don't want to be in limbo. I think you guys can probably understand that, right? And so we'll see what happens. And that's it. Peace out, guys. Love you lots.